Picture this. One quiet morning in his small British workshop, Alan Millyard sips his tea, looks over at a Kawasaki Ninja H2R parked in the corner and mutters, "Yeah, I could probably make that a bit quicker." Those words would ripple through the motorcycle world like a thunderclap. Because when that man, the same one who hand-built a 500 horsepower Viper V10 motorcycle in his garage, decides to tinker with the world's most powerful production bike, things get beautifully out of hand. By the time you finish this video, you'll understand exactly how Millyard could transform the already terrifying H2R into something that redefines the laws of physics. So buckle up and smash that subscribe button like you're tightening the last bolt on a 300 horsepower supercharger, because this ride's about to get wild. Alan Millyard isn't a corporate engineer. He's a mechanical artist, armed with a hacksaw, a file, and absurd levels of patience. His backyard creations, from the 8.0-litre Viper V10 bike to the flying Millyard with its aircraft engine cylinders, have stunned professional engineers who can't believe they actually run, let alone run smoothly. Unlike mass-production geniuses at Kawasaki, Millyard works almost entirely by feel. No factory, no digital modelling, just intuition, precision, and old-school British stubbornness. And that's what makes this thought experiment so electrifying. If Kawasaki's H2R is the product of unlimited resources, what happens when a lone craftsman with unlimited imagination decides to rebuild it? The first thing he'd touch would be the heart, that supercharged engine. The stock Ninja H2R already screams at 310 horsepower thanks to a 998cc supercharged inline-4 spinning up to 14,000 RPM. But Millyard doesn't tune engines, he reinvents them. He might bore out the cylinders to 1,200cc or 1,400cc, fabricate a custom crankcase, and hand-balance the crank to microscopic precision. He could even attempt a V6 layout, two H2R triples fused at 90 degrees carved from billet aluminum. That would push theoretical output beyond 450 horsepower, perhaps even flirting with 500, the same region as his infamous Viper bike, but at half the weight. And remember, he does all this with hand tools. No robots, no mass production, just artistry. But making that kind of power raises a terrifying question. How do you control it? Because next, we're diving into what Millyard would likely redesign to keep this mechanical monster from ripping itself apart. The H2R's trellis frame is a masterpiece of steel and geometry, but Millyard's version? Expect something hand-welded from aircraft-grade aluminum, lighter, stiffer, and shaped for perfect mass centralization. He might stretch the wheelbase by a few centimeters for stability, reinforce the swing arm, and craft a one-off single-piece monocoque tail. And the aero? Oh, he'd have fun with that. Imagine variable geometry wings like a fighter jet, adjustable flaps that angle automatically with speed. He could even build a tail fin that stabilizes airflow beyond 400 km/h, maybe borrowing concepts from the Bloodhound SSC land speed car. Every detail would serve a purpose. Maximum control at insane velocity. But there's something even more interesting hiding under that sleek fairing, the mechanical soul-tuning Millyard is famous for. And that secret is what separates genius from madness. Millyard doesn't chase horsepower numbers, he chases harmony. While most engineers use computers to simulate balance, he simply feels it. He once said, "If it doesn't feel right in your hands, it won't feel right on the road." So he hand-balances crankshafts until they spin like silk, measures tolerances by intuition, and tunes idle by ear. If he rebuilt the H2R, he'd likely re-blueprint every component: cam timing, piston weight, valve, geometry. The goal wouldn't just be brute force, it'd be refined chaos. Imagine a 500 horsepower H2R that purrs at idle but screams like a jet turbine past 14,000 RPM. Controllable, predictable, and alive. That's Millyard's trademark. Mechanical serenity hidden inside fury. But even perfection has limits. Because once you start talking about 450 plus horsepower on two wheels, you're entering dangerous territory, both scientifically and legally. The stock H2R in the right hands can touch roughly 400 km/h. That's faster than a Bugatti Chiron at full send. But Millyard's hypothetical rebuild, it could go beyond. Let's break down the physics. Drag coefficient, the H2R sits around 0.35. With new aerodynamics, Millyard might drop it below 0.30. Power to weight, at 450 HP and 240 kilos, that's 1.87 HP kilo, supercar killing territory. Projected top speed, roughly 440 to 460 km/h, depending on gearing and tyre limits. At those speeds, the air itself becomes the enemy. A tiny gust can lift the front wheel. Heat from friction can melt fairings. Millyard would likely use carbon ceramic coatings and aerospace-grade fasteners to keep it all together. And yes, he'd probably test-ride it himself, smiling calmly. But even if he could ride it, could anyone else? Let's be honest, even pro riders tremble before the H2R. It's not just power, it's responsibility at 300 km/h. Now imagine a Millyard H2R. One twist too much and you could time travel to next week. Riders would need F1 level reflexes and titanium courage. Insurance companies would simply laugh. Governments, they'd ban it faster than you can say supercharger. But enthusiasts, they'd worship it. Forums would explode. Did you see Millyard's H2R build would become motorcycle folklore? Because deep down, every rider dreams of a machine that scares them, yet obeys. And Millyard's craftsmanship could deliver exactly that balance. Still, that raises another question. What would the other hyperbikes of history look like next to a Millyard H2R? Let's line them up. Dodge Tomahawk 8.3L V10, 500 HP, but weighs over 600 kilos. A concept, not a rider's bike. MTT Y2K, turbine engine, 420 HP on jet fuel. Insane, yes, but delicate. Suzuki Hayabusa, legendary top-end speed, roughly 190 HP. Kawasaki H2R, 310 HP, 400 km/h, engineered perfection. And then the Millyard H2R, a 450-500 HP handmade monster that actually works. It would sit on top of that list, not just for numbers, but for soul. The others are experiments or factory marvels. His would be a handcrafted miracle. MotoGP engineers would study it. Collectors would fight for it. And YouTube would break the day he unveiled it. But there's one twist no one expects from a man like Millyard. Something that could redefine the future of bikes. Millyard loves old-school mechanics, but he's not blind to modern innovation. So imagine this. He keeps the H2R's supercharged heart, but adds a small high-torque electric motor in the swing arm hub. Instant torque, zero lag. The electric motor launches the bike. The supercharger takes over beyond 100 km/h. The result, 0-100 km/h in under 1.8 seconds, quicker than a Formula One car. Regenerative braking could charge a small cell hidden in the frame, powering fans, telemetry, or active aerodynamics. It wouldn't just be the most powerful bike, it would be the smartest, a symbol of mechanical artistry meeting future tech.
And yet, Millyard wouldn't boast. He'd just smile, roll it out of the garage, fire it up and quietly say, "Runs nicely, doesn't it?"
But what happens after he builds it? That's the part that truly gives this story its cinematic ending. It's dawn at Bruntingthorpe Proving Ground. Mist rolls over the tarmac. Cameras, engineers, and a handful of nervous journalists wait. Then, the sound. A deep, metallic growl that rises into an ear-splitting scream as Millyard's H2R fires to life. He eases out the clutch, the rear tyre whining as it hooks into the asphalt. The bike lunges forward, 100 km/h, 200, 300. At 400, the wings adjust. The sound becomes a continuous roar. At 440, the onboard telemetry flickers. Stability nominal.
It's fast enough.
That moment would cement him not as a builder, but a legend. Someone who proved that passion can out-engineer corporations. What makes the idea of a Millyard H2R special isn't just speed. It's what it represents, human potential. It shows that engineering brilliance doesn't require a billion-dollar lab, just dedication, creativity, and heart. In a world where everything's automated, Millyard reminds us that one person, one workshop, and one vision can still shake the world. That's why enthusiasts across generations respect him. He's not chasing fame. He's preserving the spirit of invention. And maybe that's why this what if feels so real. Because deep down, we know that if anyone could actually do it, it's Alan Millyard. So, what would happen to the motorcycle world next? If Millyard really unveiled a 500 HP H2R, the ripple across the motorcycle industry would be immediate. Kawasaki engineers would study his craftsmanship. Other manufacturers, Ducati, BMW, even Honda, would quietly rethink their limits. Independent builders would feel inspired. If Alan can, maybe I can too. It would reignite the golden age of custom engineering, the era when machines had character and builders had fingerprints on every bolt. Motorcycling would once again be about artistry, not algorithms. If Alan Millyard ever rebuilt the Kawasaki Ninja H2R, it wouldn't just be another custom bike. It would be a message, a roaring declaration that imagination still rules the road. It would remind us that the most powerful engine isn't forged in metal. It's forged in the mind of someone crazy enough to dream, patient enough to build, and humble enough to call it just a bit of fun. So next time you hear that piercing H2R supercharger whine, ask yourself, what if one man, a few tools, and an unshakable dream decided that wasn't fast enough? Because that, my friends, is how legends are born. And if you enjoyed this journey, subscribe to Tech Lab, where we don't just talk about machines, we talk about the men who dare to push them beyond the impossible.